Hi, I am Jignesh. Welcome to Code with Jignesh. Hey everyone, welcome to your first complete guide to Angular 20 project structure. This video is for you if you are a beginner who just run ng and got confused by all those folders, or maybe you are an intermediate developer who wants to learn the right way to organize your code. Okay, so I am going to explain every single folder and file in a real world LS with that you can use today in your project. Okay, so let's dive in. Okay, so ever open an Angular project and felt completely lost, like where do components go? What's the difference between core and shared? Okay, so by this video, you will know exactly how to structure any Angular project like a pro. Okay, why project structure matters. So before we look at folders, let's understand why structure matters. So think of Angular project like a kitchen. If you know everything, okay, throw everything in a one drawer like spoon, knives, plates, vegetables. Cooking becomes a nightmare, right? So you waste time searching for things. So same goes with the code. A good structure means you find files quickly. New team members understand your project fast. Your app scales without becoming messy. Debugging is also 10 times easier, right? Angular gives you a starting structure, but you decide how to organize features, services, and component, right? So let's start from the top. Okay, a new fresh project which is created using a nginx command. Okay, so when you create a new Angular project with nginx, you get a bunch of files in the root folder. Let me explain the important ones. Okay, so first one is the angular.json. So this is your project configuration file. It tells Angular how to build your app, why, what styles to use, where assets are. Think of it as your project's blueprint. Okay, think of it as your project's blueprint. Okay, so next one is a package.json file. So this lists all the npm packages your project needs, like Angular, TypeScript, RxJS, everything. So when you run npm install, this file is read. Okay, so then next one is a package.log.json. So this logs the exact version of your all packages. Never delete this file manually. It keeps your dependency consistent. Okay, then next one is tsconfig.json. So basically, it contains TypeScript configuration. It controls how TypeScript compiles your code. You usually don't need to touch this as a beginner. Okay. Then there is a git ignore file. So which basically lists the files that should not go to GitHub, like node modules, which is very important for version control. Okay. So now there are three other files which is also you need to know, like tsconfig app JSON, so which basically config for your application code. Then there is a tsconfig spec JSON files, which contains config for test files. Then there is a editor config file, so which basically contains code formatting rules for your editor. Okay, so you rarely need to need to change these files in your project, like, but just you have to know just they are exist. Okay, the main folder we care about is the src folder. Okay, so let's go inside. So the src folder has a three key parts, like a first one is index.html. This is your single HTML page. Angular is a single page application, right? So everything runs through this one HTML file. Okay, then next one is a main.ts file. This is the entry point of your Angular app. It bootstrap your application. Think of it as the ignition of the key that starts your cards. Okay, then next one is style.css. So which basically contains global styles for your Angular entire app. Things like fonts, resets, common class can go here. Okay, so now the app folder. Okay, so this is where the magic happens. By default, Angular gives you your uh, root component app.ts file. Then there is app.html. It's HTML for your root component. Then there is a CSS file for your root component. Okay, and then there is a route files which contains the routes for your Angular application. Then there is also a app.config.ts file which contains your application wide configurations. So okay, so in Angular, okay, so in Angular, so in Angular 21, apps are standalone by default. So that means no more ng modules only unless you explicitly need that them. Okay, so components are independent. Okay, but as your app grows, it can't keep everything in that in app folder, right? So you need subfolders. So let me show you a better and professional way to handle this. Okay, the folder structure that professional use. This contain basically three main concepts, like one is core folder, shared folder, and future one. Okay, so first one is the core folder. So this basically content, this has things you use once in your entire app, like a services that run throughout, like a authentication service, logging service, http interceptor. So think of core as the foundation of your building. So which setup once, okay? So which we can contain like things like auth service, logger service, interceptor, etc. Okay. Then next one is shared folder. Okay, so this has the things used multiple times across different features, like a reusable components, pipes, directives. Think of shared as your toolkit that you use everywhere. Okay, okay. For instance, like a button component, card component, pipes, and directive which you use in projects. Okay. Then next one is a feature folder. So this is where your actually app feature lives. Each feature gets its own folder, like a dashboard, product, user profile. Each feature has its own component, service, and routing, like a dashboard, products, user profile. Okay. So this separation keeps your code clean and scalable. Code run screenshot of the basically professional structure using the code shared and feature folder. Okay. Okay. Now next. So now here is something many beginner miss. Where do you put your TypeScript interfaces and models? So you have two approaches. One is like a global model folders, and another is a feature specific models. Okay. So in approach one global model folders, create a models folder inside in your app. So approach one is global model folder. So where you create a models folder inside SRC app for interfaces, yeah, which you can use it across the entire app. Okay, like in your model folder, you can create like user model TS, product model TS, order model TS, like this. So this works well for small to medium apps where models are shared everywhere. Okay. Then there is a second approach is a feature specific models. So where you put models inside each feature model. This is better for the large apps where models belongs to specific feature. Okay. So for example, if you have a feature like a product, so inside your feature folder you have products folder, and inside product folder you can have a models folder, and then you can add folders files like a products model tls. Okay. Okay, so my recommendation is to start with a global model folder. If your app grows and some models are only used in one feature, move them to feature folder. Okay, okay. And also one thing, also remember one thing: always use interface and types. So don't use any everywhere. Yeah. So here is the interfaces. Your code looks clean, and interfaces make your code safe and easier to understand as well. Okay. So there are also two more important folders in the directory. One is like asset folder. This is where you put images, icons, fonts, JSON file, anything that's a static file goes here. Okay. So Angular automatically copies this to your build folder. Okay. So you can organize it like this. Inside your asset folder, you can create images folder, icons folder, and fonts folder based on your requirement. Okay. Then there is another one is a environment folder. Basically uh, basically it's not by default in Angular 21, but you can create it manually. Okay. This folder basically stores environment specific configuration like API URLs for development, staging, and production environment. Okay. So you can use this environment in your service to point the right API based on the environment you are building for, which is super useful for real world applications. Okay. So Angular 21 is all about standalone components, right? So let me give you some best practices ideas. Okay. Okay, so first thing, keep components small. One component should do one thing. Don't create a 1500 line component file. Try to break it into smaller pieces. Okay. Then there is a co-locate files. So keep the TS, HTML, and CSS together in the same folder, which makes it easy to find everything related to that component. Okay. Then next one is use lazy loading. So load feature models only when needed. This makes your initial app bundle smaller and faster, right? Okay. And fourth and most important thing is import only what you need. So with standalone component, you explicitly import dependencies. So don't import for instance, with standalone components, you explicitly import dependencies. Don't import common modules everywhere. If you only need ngzip, import just ngzip. Okay. So this practice keeps your app fast and maintainable as well. Okay. So here are the some common beginner mistakes which we need to take care of while developing Angular application. Okay. So mistake one is everything in app component TS. So don't build your entire app in one component. Break it into smaller components using routing like things. Okay. Then mistake two is not organizing service. So don't throw all service randomly. Put them in core or in a feature model and keep them organized. Okay. Then third mistake is mixing business logic with UR. So UR components should be thin. They display data and handle user events. Heavy logic should be done in services. Okay. Then next mistake is ignoring TypeScript types. So don't use any everywhere. Create proper interfaces in your models folder. Type TypeScript is your friend. Remember, TypeScript is your friend, not your enemy. Okay. So avoid this and your code quality will jump instantly, right? Okay. Okay, so all right, let me give you a complete folder structure that works for 90% of Angular project. Okay, so here is the full professional structure you can use in your Angular project, which works in most of your Angular application, right? Okay, you can take a screenshot or you can take a screenshot. Okay. So using up this structure can provide some benefits like you can scale well from small to large application, makes it easy for teams to collaborate, also follow Angular best practice as well, works great with standalone components as well. He's has a clear place for models and interfaces. Okay. So start with this, adjust based on a project needs, but this foundation is solid. Okay, right? So now let's wrap up. Today you learn why project structure matter, what every file in the root folder does, how to organize code with core, shared and future, right? Then there is a where to put folder and interfaces, and best practices for standalone components, common mistakes to avoid, and a good tested folder structure you can use right now. Okay. So Angular project structure can seem overwhelming at first, but once you understand the pattern, it becomes second nature, right? So if this video is help you, hit the like button, subscribe for more Angular tutorials. Okay. And you can also drop a comment if you have any question. Read every single one. Okay. So download the folder structure template from the description and start building your next Angular app the right way. Thanks for watching. Happy coding. Thank you.